I've worked in the nonprofit industry for about 15 years. And I worked at a time that's kind of unusual for people nowadays, but it was just as technology was becoming more prevalently used. When I first started working for the nonprofit, a lot of everything was done on a downloaded version, a desktop version of as far as software goes. So I've grown with the company from 2 employees, helping 27 children at an orphanage in India to now thousands of people in India, and working in 2 leprosy colonies in India to working with over 97 leprosy colonies. So we grew exponentially over the last 20 years of the nonprofit's existence, but I worked with them for 15 years. And so beginning with, really basic technology to working with several beta versions of online technology, and with that first rolling out to really kind of where we are today with some really great types of technology and software available to support nonprofits. But I really feel like I'm pretty well-rounded in that I have had almost every position inside of a nonprofit, working first as the executive assistant to the president of the company, to office manager, controller, executive director for 5 years. And then the last position I held was chief operations officer. So I know all the ins and outs and what it takes to support an organization in their growth. For the last 15 years, one of the biggest obstacles that we were an international nonprofit. And so everyone was on a different level as far as their technology. And of course, between the US and India, it was huge. And so I think the greatest advancement that I've seen with online technology has been the way that you can utilize the network, and especially with fundraising, being able to reach thousands and thousands of people very easily and inexpensively. And we've gone from printing flyers and having to get those sent out in the mail on a regular basis to now you can just use a single handle and reach thousands of people. I think that's the greatest advantage that we have now that we didn't have before. When you approach people to support your cause and your mission, it's very emotional. And people don't like to have to go through 5 or 6 steps to get that feeling that they've done something good. And so I think the simpler the software is, the better. The less steps that you have to go through, the better. And also, if a software is too complicated to use, you have such high turnover in the nonprofit world, usually because people are not paid top dollar. Nonprofits have to watch their overhead. And with that turnover, taking the time to train people over and over again, if the software is too complex and you're having to depend on someone in the IT industry to do that training for you, sometimes you'll be waiting a long time, and the lag time is just too much. And so I really appreciate software that is very simple to use for the training purposes and very simple for donors to get to that destination of really feeling like they're helping. So it's really important for training to be done easily. So many times a nonprofit has to wait for an IT specialist to accomplish the training. And time is money. You can't wait. And it's so much better if the nonprofit has the independence and the freedom to be able to do that at their own pace. And if it's a simple process or simple software to use, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to accomplish that goal. You can do that within your own team. Such an advantage to intuitive software. And when it's intuitive, it doesn't take a lot of work to accomplish your goal, and making sure that everyone is on the same page and things are running smoothly. So the nonprofit that I worked for a long time had a very unique mission. And of course, it was an international nonprofit. What we did is we helped people that were suffering from the effects from leprosy. And a lot of people thought, well, we thought leprosy was gone a long time ago, or I thought that only happened in Bible times. But leprosy is still very prevalent today. And especially in India, where we do our work, there's a stigma attached to leprosy. So even though there has been a cure for leprosy for many, many years, a lot of people won't go to the doctor to get the medication, and they suffer with the effects. And it affects everything. It affects, whether or not they get a job, what kind of employment they have, whether or not their children go to school. So we decided that just giving people food to eat or just helping them get a job, that wasn't enough. We had to have a three-pronged approach that took care of all of the obstacles, because you'd only get so far. So the phrase, if you teach a man to fish, he'll eat for the rest of his life. He'll never have to fish again. And that was kind of our approach. So what we did is we helped the parents get better. We helped them with medical care. So we had a medical van that would go out to them and visit them personally to keep it discreet, because in India, the stigma is so terrible that if you go to the hospital and you get diagnosed with leprosy, they will report you. You will be removed from your home and put in a leprosy colony, and you'll lose your job. And a lot of people lose their families. It's just a terrible thing that you have to deal with. So we would take the mobile medical clinic out to them, give them treatment. Nobody had to know. And then we would also help educate their kids so that the cycle doesn't repeat itself. And in our schools, we even had segregation so that we had kids that were not from the leprosy colonies attending the school, so that they could, we had integration, so that the kids that were not from the colonies went to school with the children that were from the colonies, so that they could learn from an early age that there was no difference. They had the same abilities, they had the same intelligence, and they could have the same dreams. And then the third thing we did was help the parents stay employed, because if they could be employed, then they're not tempted to pull their kids from school to work in the fields or other really horrible sources of income in ways that children have been used in India. So I'm really passionate about the work and the years that I served in that organization. I also have a real passion for Montessori school, and that was like the first nonprofit that I worked with before I worked with this other organization. I just really love helping people. As I've had the privilege to work in the nonprofit industry over the years, I've held several roles. And I first started as the personal assistant or the executive assistant to a president of a nonprofit company. So I got to learn all of the ins and outs with fundraising, major donor appreciation and cultivation, just as an observer and a supporter. As time went on, I was given the opportunity to serve as a office manager, just really helping things move along more quickly. And that's when I also got involved with the development of software, where we were using just a basic desktop version. And it was just at that time where we were moving on to an online version of software. And so after that, I really developed my skills with accounting, and I had kind of that strategic mindset. So I worked as a controller and got more and more into the strategy of fundraising and how we notify people, receipting, filing, 990s and that kind of thing. All of the money-making strategic aspects, and also the obligations that nonprofits have to stay afloat, because there's been a lot of not so great decisions that companies have made with nonprofits and trying to create an unfair advantage for themselves and use that status. So, naturally the government has created rules to protect that status and also help us grow, but also, create a situation where nobody makes those bad decisions and takes advantage of people. You have to protect the donor. You have to protect also all of the people that work for the nonprofit, and make sure the reputation stays intact, because with a nonprofit, reputation is everything. So after that, I was given the ability to try my hand at being an executive director. That was a whole different level of service and responsibility. And especially with an international organization, it was a lot of responsibility, but I loved it. I'm kind of a natural in that arena. I love introducing our mission and the salesmanship that goes along with that, but also seeing people's lives change, both the donors and the people that contributed to the growth of our organization, and the people that were the beneficiaries of that hard work and the sacrifice that people made so that they could have a better life. It's just so fulfilling. In the last few years that I worked with this organization, I worked there as the chief operations officer, supporting a brand new president, going through transitions after a 20-year span of working with this organization. So it's been a wonderful experience for me, and I've learned almost every in and out with the nonprofit industry. I love helping other people. I grew up in a situation where things weren't so great. I mean, I had parents that did the best they could, but I've had experiences like I had to get custody of my younger brothers. I wanted to prevent them from going into foster care. And I was 26 at the time when I got custody of my 14-year-old brothers. I also have a son that is high functioning autistic. And those two experiences, I think, really created my awareness earlier in life, where there are a lot of people that need help. And it doesn't take much. It just takes somebody who cares. And there's just no feeling or buzz that you can get any other way than through serving other people. And nonprofits, especially the one that I found myself working with, I can't think of another organization that did it better or helped more people in a very, very impactful way. And I also have a passion to understand other people and where they're coming from. And I also like to be understood. So there's nothing more tragic than someone that is stigmatized because of a mental illness or a disability, and they can't have the same opportunities in life because nobody wants to take the time to understand. So I like being that spokesperson and that mediator in between someone that is stuck and they feel like they have a cap on their life, and opportunity that's always just right around the corner. You just have to make those connections. When I was working with this nonprofit organization, we started with 27 kids, and we were working in 2 leprosy colonies, probably 50 individuals altogether. But we were growing so fast. And we had this special program too, where you could sponsor a child. But a lot of these kids had been abandoned or had had issues of not being accepted in their community. And we found out that it was super tragic when one of our sponsors, like would lose their job or graduated from college and got married and had more expenses, and they dropped these kids. So we decided what we'd do is we would try to create a sustainable situation where we took them in education from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. And in order to do that, it would take 4 sponsors per child. But by having 4 sponsors per child, they had a whole support network. And they had, if one person decided to stop sponsoring them, they still had 3 more. So it was easier to keep that going and not disappoint the child. With all of those sponsors, our donor base grew very quickly. And so we found ourselves we had outgrown the old desktop version of a software that we were using. We had a custom built software made for our organization to support all of this unique way that we, raised money and supported these individuals. But it was done through a corporation and supported with their server. And not too long after we got started, I think it was like 2 or 3 years later, the corporation got bought out, and so did all of our support with this custom software. So we had to start all over again, trying to seek out another type of database that would support us. And all of the new online versions, they were in their beta forms still. So I was able to work with a few of them and do the painstaking customizations with all the different disattached strings. That a lot of things were just kind of left hanging because they just weren't there yet in their development, even though we were ready to go. Also, we found some versions or some software that would work for us, but it was way out of our price range. There's no way that that would work. So I met Bala Guntapalli, that works with Affnetz. So helpful, so wonderful. And he recognized our problems. He was like, I can see why you're struggling here. And we had this wonderful collaborative relationship where I could talk to him and troubleshoot, or get some of his friends in the IT industry to help us extract data, or do some data scrubbing for us, because in nonprofits these days, your data is what defines you. It's really the selling point. You have to be able to prove that what you do works. You just can't give people a warm, fuzzy feeling. That doesn't last long. And so working together with Bala, he introduced me to a project that he'd been working on for a while. Of course, he has a whole team of wonderful people that work with Affnetz. But when I first saw this product, I was blown away, because he took all of my complaints over the last, 2 years that he was helping me. And he solved every one of those problems and developed this wonderful software solution for nonprofits that really took care of every single problem that we had been experiencing. And on top of it, at an affordable price. Our dream as a nonprofit, and I think this is any nonprofit's dream, is to have an all-in-one solution. So many times as a nonprofit, by trying to save money, we're spending a lot more money, because what we're doing is we're trying to take this one little aspect or solution to, like, maybe a CRM issue. We got a really great CRM, and we got the cheapest one, but it doesn't help us with peer-to-peer fundraising, or it doesn't have a really great receipting system. It's a nightmare when it comes to our accounting, or it doesn't have a management system built in that will support the staff or the board members, and or it can't be pretty. I remember doing a fundraiser where people went to the checkout page on our website, and we had a lot of hype with it where they were trying to reach a goal of helping us raise $50,000, and we wanted to supply a match. We got someone that was willing to match that if we met the goal. But the software we had wouldn't even allow us to have a simple thermometer or dial to inform everyone where we were with our goal. And it fell flat so fast. So I love all of the aspects with Affnetz in that it has that all-in-one, one-stop shop feeling. You don't have to have a separate communication system that can distribute mass email communications. You don't have to have a separate board member or staff management system. You don't have to have a separate project management or events system. All of those things are all in one, and they all communicate with each other. That was another issue that we had, where we could solve these problems with different pieces of software, but they didn't talk to each other. So then you have to hire a data entry clerk to make these entries 2 and 3 times again. You know, it's just so time consuming and money wasted, where we could be working on our mission. Instead, we're having to do data entry for hours and hours. With that also came the element of human error, because when you have to enter the same data over and over again, sometimes it doesn't end up the same way in all these different systems. So having a source that you can go to, that everything's connected to, just makes everyone's job easier. And it makes things, you know, like the information that we want to give our donors more reliable. Working with the Affnetz team has been amazing. First of all, they're very collaborative. And so they really want to understand your unique challenges and the things that you're having to deal with as a nonprofit. They really want to help you serve others better. And so they like to say that, you know, we serve you so that you can serve others. And I just love that whole feeling and the whole idea of with their approach with nonprofits in general, but especially with me. I also feel like they take that extra time. And if you have little bugs or something in the system at first, or if you need to expand faster than you thought, they're right there and they're ready to help you with the solution. And if they don't have the solution, my experience is they will find the solution. You will not be left hanging for long. And I think the nonprofits that succeed are the ones that can really have that connection with their donors and know how to appreciate their donors. The thing that really impresses me about Affnetz is how easy the software allows you to do that. Not only can you keep them informed with accurate data, and you can receipt them, and you can create fundraising and event opportunities, peer-to-peer fundraising. There's so many ways that you can connect with them. Not only can you do that, but you can show appreciation and make sure that your board members and your staff are well informed of everything that they are doing to support your organization. It's so much more meaningful for a donor if they don't just get a canned response as part of their receipt when a transaction takes place, you know, like right after they've paid $50, it just says thank you in a canned phrase. It's so much more meaningful if a board member is aware, gee, you have been donating for the last 15 years. And I just want you to know how much growth has taken place because of your commitment. It's also important for a board member to know what the donor has done and the sacrifices they have made. It makes the staff and the board members feel so much better about what they're doing. We had a situation where there was a lady that was sponsoring a child, and it was $30 a month. And I knew that she cleaned houses for a living because I had been able to talk to her. And she called me and she said, I'd like to sponsor another child. Now, she was a woman that was raised in Russia and grew up in Brazil. So she had this very interesting accent. And I even paused and I said, are you sure that's what you're telling me? I want to make sure that I understand you want to sponsor another child. That's going to be $60 a month. Are you okay with that? She said, it's totally fine. I got another job so I can manage. She went out and got another job so that she could sponsor 2 kids. How many people would do that? I think there are many people that do that. And what kind of difference does that make when a board member knows that? So having the board member management and the staff management elements in this software allows you to make those notes and include that information in the software easily accessible. It just makes everybody feel so much better. I mean, because it's not easy to run a nonprofit. It's a thankless job sometimes, but knowing that donors like this woman, they stand behind you and they're willing to sacrifice to the extent of getting a second job to support your mission, that just makes you want to work even harder. And just the opposite with the donors, if they know how appreciated they are by the board members and the staff, they're more likely to continue giving. And if they know the impact that their $2 is making, they're more likely to give to you for several years and even increase that amount because they know the money's going to a good cause and it's doing good things for people. So just like I mentioned before, with a nonprofit, reputation is everything. If you do something that's dishonest, or if you are difficult to work with, you're not going to last very long. I really love the Affnetz service ethic, and I've felt it in really personal ways too, because it's not easy working in a nonprofit. So many times you have to rely on the services that are offered to you. You have to rely on people showing up, and hopefully that grant that you wanted comes through. When it comes to the software, that's where I really feel like nonprofit industries have been nickeled and dimed and almost taken advantage of. There was a phrase that I used to use. It was really tongue in cheek, but we beg so that you don't have to. I mean, it really felt that difficult to get the support and the help that we needed without being taken advantage of with $1 here, $2 there. It's the reason why we're so concerned with that is we have to keep our overhead down. We have to keep our percentages in a way where major donors really feel like it's worth it for me to give you dollars because I know you're not going to spend it all on administration. It's going to go to the cause that you're advertising and that you're marketing to us. And so we want to also feel that good about what we do. And it hurts when we have to spend money on administrative costs rather than a child that we're aware of that we know is hungry, or a parent who's suffering from cancer. And we know that that family needs support like right now. Affnetz is really cognizant of that. They're very sensitive to the needs that we have, keeping the costs down, helping our staff and our team work more efficiently with the software. They really get it. They understand the needs of nonprofits, and the support that they give goes even beyond that, because I feel like they've gone the extra mile to make sure that every need that we have as nonprofits is met in a way to where it's going to support our growth. It's going to support our time in a way that we can spend our time doing more service than having to solve these difficult problems. And I can tell you that most nonprofits, it takes 5 to 6 different softwares to accomplish everything that they need to do. So by consolidating all of those into one effort and one source, it really is a time saver and a money saver. Affnetz is a unique product that really speaks to the core of what every nonprofit needs. I really love how they actually did. They went and talked to and surveyed a lot of different nonprofits so that they could have a better firsthand knowledge and understanding of what's missing out there. I think they really hit the nail on the head when they came to the conclusion that what they need is an all-in-one product that really communicates and talks to itself. You know, every single aspect of the software is integrated and it talks to itself. I think the most impressive parts of it are how they've addressed a really powerful CRM and project management, events management module or you know, software. On top of that, they wanted to make sure that they took care of the staff and the board members, the stakeholders that really run the organization and keep it healthy. And the communication platform there to be able to reach out to your donors, to each other, and keep information at the click of a button so that you can be quick in your response or in your decision making. That's like what every nonprofit has asked for years. And of course, you can probably find software that can do that, but not all in one. And the final part of it is really what makes it could make or break a nonprofit, and that's the fundraising component. You have to make money to stay alive, and in order to do that, you have to have the right foundation to be able to ask people in a way where it's fun, it's you're able to get a results quickly, and a way that you can keep all of that information in one place so that your receipting and other aspects of donation and money management can happen seamlessly and also effortlessly. The real magic with an ask is that personal connection. And I think that that's really the magic place with the Affnetz software, where they've really figured that out, where as a nonprofit, you can go and approach people. You can tap into every single social media handle. You can thank people all within a click of a button and all from the same source of information. So I really appreciate how Affnetz has been so thoughtful in concentrating on those 4 core aspects of what every nonprofit needs. It just makes everyone's job so much more enjoyable, and it sets the foundation for a nonprofit to be successful and last. A nonprofit that can last for more than 10 years is a successful nonprofit. And I really feel like this is really going to up the game for any nonprofit that uses this software. I think Affnetz really exceeded my expectations in 2 areas, really important areas. The first one was cost. And I think I've mentioned this before, but when you are using 5 or 6 different platforms, everyone's getting a piece of the pie, a little piece of your money. Having it all consolidated in one place, not only does it save you time, which saves you money, but the cost is significantly less when you're paying one source for all of this benefit. The other thing that really makes Affnetz stand out is the way that this software can be personalized to your organization. Being able to put your logo in certain places in the checkout page, or a photograph that really exemplifies the mission and the work that you do. Being able to have, when you're having your checkout experience, you're not putting sponsored kids in the basket. You're, you know, it's just, it can say checkout or whatever the language is in your organization. It really makes your team feel like they're part of a cohesive effort. And not only that, the way Affnetz will allow you to personalize the software, it extends beyond your organization. You bring your donors and all of the stakeholders into the fold. They understand your language. You can say the keywords that you need to say that just really makes it feel like this is our house and welcome to our home. So I really love it that Affnetz even thought about those small details in making a product that helps the nonprofit's job become easier and more enjoyable, and also helps you reach out to donors, engage new donors, and make them feel like they've also become part of the same family and the same effort. They really thought of everything. Just like to say thank you to Affnetz. I mean, really, the solution that you're providing is something that we've all been waiting for years. And I think what you're about to do is help so many nonprofits that are so desperate for your solution, what you provide. We're going to see so much more involvement in our communities, and we're going to see nonprofits excel. Me personally, I just want to say thank you for everything that you have done, all the sacrifices that you have made, and for caring about those that care for others. It's really remarkable what you're doing.